I'm a recovering addict named Josh.
Hey, Josh.
I'm extremely grateful for the only promise of Narcotics Anonymous, which is the freedom from active addiction. First and foremost, I want to thank the committee for seeing something in me which I don't always see in myself. And, to ask somebody like me, I don't know about any of you guys, but I remember being under a bridge with a needle in my arm. I can remember being in the bathroom for hours at a time, trying to hit, but I was so in the grip and so dehydrated that I couldn't hit, right? But my disease had me locked and loaded. So I could remember that, right? So I'm really grateful that somebody can see something in me to actually have me come up here and share my experience, strength, and hope of recovery, man. So my clean date is 6/30/20, and I have 3 years, 4 months or something. I'm going to clap for myself. I'll clap for myself. I couldn't get 3 minutes, man. I couldn't get 3 days, 3 minutes, 3 hours. To have 3 years and some change is important to me. Because nobody's going to disqualify my clean time except for my disease of addiction. Right? My disease is the only one that's going to come here and minimize what I got going on in my life, man. So I'm so grateful for that, man. So on that day, man, God seemed fit, man, to take me out of the pits, man. For real. I don't know. At some point, if you guys ever read the first step out of the step working guide or worked it, it talks about a difference between surrender and resignation, right? Yeah. So I said, I fully resigned to the fact that I was going to be an addict for the rest of my life. Right? I fully resigned to the fact that my daughter was going to grow up without my presence. I fully resigned to the fact that that's it. I accepted it. Right? I really thought I was going to die this way. I had no idea what Narcotics Anonymous was. I had no idea that recovery was a dream, man. I didn't understand that, right? And I'm so grateful that God put me in a position to have an avenue of grace in my life that was unwanted and unexpected at that moment, man. I am here. I am a byproduct of what we call in Florida a Marchman Act, right? So I live in Florida, Ocala. I'm from Long Island. But what happens if you overdose? Right, and they fine you and they Narcan you, they call a Marchman Act, and they force you to get clean. And that's what happened to me. I didn't want to get clean. Right? I didn't come here to get clean. I certainly didn't come here to stop lying. I didn't come here to stop stealing. Right? I didn't come here to stop getting over on people. Right? But so what happened on that day, man, is I actually overdosed on that substance you were talking about. Right? And they put me in a detox, and I was in the detox for 5 days. Obsessing about how I'm going to get out because I still had some at the bag at the house, right? I did a little bit and I knocked out, right? And the bag was still there, so I woke up in detox. I was like, man, it's still there. And my disease was still playing tricks on me. So they let me out of the detox, and what I did is I went right back to the same bag, right? I didn't go cop again, right? I didn't go to the corner and cop again. I went right back to the source of the heart attack that the second step talks about. Right, the basic text it says, right? It says that it would be insane if we were to ask for a heart attack or a fatal accident. So my disease had me in the grip at that moment, and that's what I did. I played a trick. I played a game. Maybe I'll do a little bit less, right? And I'll outsmart this, right? Yeah, that didn't work out too well. So what happened is I woke up in an ambulance again, not knowing my name, not knowing my birthday, not knowing my address, not knowing the president, right? And at that point, I surrendered, man. I have not found it necessary to pick up anything since that day, man. And I'm so grateful because I was so desperate, man. So desperate. And when H&I came into that facility, and if you're part of H&I, thank you for your service, man. You literally have saved my life. But when H&I came in that facility and gave me that little bit of hope, man, and I caught some desire, and when the desperation met my desire, willingness was formed in my spirit, and I'm grateful for that, man. Because I didn't know what it was to have with or without, man. I know when we do recovery, it says that when we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs, we're faced with this dilemma, man. What was there left to do? I didn't know. Listen, I could tell you what it was like with the drugs, right? I can also tell you what it was like without the drugs, because it was rough, man. I'm grateful that I woke up this morning not having to put a needle in my arm to get up. Right? I'm grateful that I woke up this morning not locked in the grip that, man, what am I going to do, man? Right? It's the holidays, man. No stores are open. I can't rob nothing. Who knows that Thanksgiving was hard, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, none of the stores are open because I used to jack stuff. Right? So I can remember that, right? So I'm grateful that Narcotics Anonymous gave me the opportunity to see what it was without drugs, man. Right? Because how it works, there's a question in how it works. It says, do we realize that in the long run, drugs didn't use us? No, that we didn't use drugs, drugs used us. Yeah. Right? It also talks about and why are we here? That like we live to use and use to live, right? And I can remember as a teenager living to use. I can remember going out to the party and drinking. I can remember going and smoking out on the weekends. I can remember taking the acid. I can remember all those things, right? Living to use. But at some point, I passed the threshold of no return. Right? At some point, I passed that invisible line. Right? That I no longer lived to use, I had to use to live. I passed that, man. I couldn't go with or without the drugs, man. Right? So I'm so grateful for that. So that's what if I want to dissect the topic a little bit, which is with or without, that's what I have to think about, man. Because, man, I was so bad. And I know we all think that we're the sickest ones in the room. Well, we all know the rest of that sentence, right? We go on to the bitter ends, right? Jails, institutions, and death, or find a new way to live. And like, I did the jails, I did the institutions. I was actually dead for a couple minutes twice, right? But that's the easy stuff, man. Like, if we dig into the literature, not this book, but the other one, Basic Text, man, there's some D's in there that we don't all talk about, right? There's that dereliction, that degradation, that demoralization. Right? Those are some powerful words, man. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I degraded my body, right? I did acts against my sexual identity to get the next one, right? So I was locked and loaded, right? I don't know about you, the demoralization, right? I grew up a nice Jewish kid, man. And like, I robbed my parents. I robbed my brother. I robbed my sisters to get the next one, right? Everything against the morals and the values that I supposedly was supposed to have, right? I demoralized myself, man. I was a derelict to society. I was a derelict to my brother. I was a derelict to my mother. I abandoned oneself, right? And I don't want to ever go back to that. I don't want to ever go back to those feelings of inadequacy, those feelings of unworthiness, those feelings of lack of self-worth, right? I want to remember what it was like, man. I don't want my disease to have me focusing on how much time I got from the last one, but to pay attention on how much time I can add to the next one. I got to pay attention to that stuff. I got to be vigilant. Because if I go without the program of Narcotics Anonymous, like I was just talking about, then I'm destined to use. I have no confusion in my life whatsoever, man. I'm a very passionate person. I get very loud, man. I say right a lot. I was just talking to Ben about that, and I'm trying to focus on not saying that so much. But like, I'm loud because I am from Long Island, right? I grew up in Mastic. Right? I grew up by the, check this out. I didn't know if I was with or without a religion, with or without a gang, with or without a family. Like, I didn't know any of that, right? Like, I grew up, I went to yeshiva as a kid, right? And then I would come home and I'd be in Mastic and I would act like I'm a gangster, right? So I didn't know what I had going on. The masks had masks, and that was before drugs, right? It's crazy. So when we're growing up, right, and I used to have to speak loud to be heard sometimes, right? Because I grew up, my mother is very loud, my brother's loud. Like, I had to speak loud to be heard. And sometimes I had to speak fast, man. Right? Like I always said, like I prided myself on having fast conversations with slow-thinking people in order to get the next one, right? In order to get my motive across, right? So like, and today I utilize that a little bit. Today I sharpen that defect and try to create it to an asset to significantly, effectively carry this message of Narcotics Anonymous that has saved my life, man. Right? The message that an addict, any addict, like, can stop using drugs, man. Without the drugs, stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live, man. I had no idea. I didn't even think I could stop using drugs, man. Nonetheless, lose the desire to use. I was locked and loaded for 12 months at a clip sometimes on Rikers Island, locked and loaded in Riverhead Jail, locked and loaded in Marion County Jail, right? And as soon as I got that EOS date, my disease was right there, right? Oh, how are we going to get the next one when we get out? Right? How are we going to get the next one when we get out, man? And I could remember that, man. So I don't ever want to forget any of that, man. When I got here, you guys told me some things, man. You guys told me go to a meeting a day for 90 days. The basic text says go to a meeting a day for the first 90 days, man. It was important for me to do that. It was important for me to create routine in my life. It was because you know what? I truly believe that routine creates habit, and habit builds discipline, and discipline builds transformation, and transformation changes our character, and what we need is a personality change if we in order to stay clean in here, man. So that's what you guys told me to do, go to a meeting a day for the first 90 days, and I did that. You told me to get phone numbers and use the phone numbers, man. But I also did that. I have a list of phone numbers in my phone, man. I have a list of addicts. I have a lot of soldiers in my army, in our army. I believe, and I truly, truly believe that the more soldiers in our army, the less efforts we're going to have in our victories, man. Because I can have more people, right? I don't know any army that has been successful with one gun. I don't know any of them, right? So, like, I have a lot of guns in here. I got guns on the East Coast. My sponsors on the West Coast. I got guns in London. I got guns all over the world, man. Right? Because we are our ultimate weapon. Our ultimate weapon for recovery is a recovering addict, right? That's why we got phone numbers, and I use the phone numbers, because a therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. And I didn't even know what without parallel meant when I got here. But you just heard Richie C, man. He said, get a dictionary. Right? They told me to get a dictionary when I got here, and I found out that without parallel means that nothing can stand next to it. Nothing can compare next to it, right? Nobody understands me and can relate to me like another addict. Look, not my rabbi, not my therapist, not my mother, right? Nobody can relate to me like Benny Blanco, like Ben, right? Like Danina. These are the people that have been through the same pain that I've been through, man. They told me to get a home group. I got a home group, man. It's called Boys to Men Forest Area Narcotics Anonymous. It's a really intimate men's meeting. If you're ever in Central Florida, man, hit me up. We have great literature discussion. It also helped me build confidence in my life to feel like I was with a group, part of something. But my whole life I felt like I was without. Right? My whole life I felt like I was secluded. I could be at Passover dinner, or holiday dinner, right, with my whole family and feel so alone, feel so isolated, man. This group took me in, man. They gave me that hug, man. You know that hug? That real long hug? Like a 10-second hug, like hold on a little bit. Like not with a female, with a man. Like men on men, right? And it was crazy how that touches my spirit. It was really crazy, man. And they taught me commitment, man. They had me chairing meetings, making coffee, became GSR. From GSR, I became policy chair. I went on to regional service. Like, this is what Narcotics Anonymous has enforced in my spirit with the power of the group, man. Right? Like, I felt like I had confidence, man. When I accomplish something, I builds up my self-worth and builds up my confidence. And my whole problem, I had an issue with self-worth. The next thing they told me is get a sponsor. Right, I got a sponsor, man. My sponsor is Randy Q. He's in California. And we actively work 12 steps, man. Right, I'm writing on another 8th step now, right, because the work is never done. I truly believe that if I think that the work is done, then I'm in a bad problem. I'm in a big problem, right? If I try to go without the work, there's going to be an issue in my life. My motto is do the work, man. Because like, if I'm not doing the work, then I'm really not trying to develop and grow. Right? If anybody read the Triangle of Self-Perception, the last sentence says, we must grow up or die. Yes. I must grow up or die, man. Our only hope for recovery is a profound emotional and spiritual change. Right? And I can't have a profound emotional or spiritual change without working the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, without actually writing them for me, man. And I say it all the time, like, it's one thing to put pen to paper, but it's another thing to put paper to practice in my life. But after practice, I can actually do that. And I'm grateful. And the 5th one, you guys told me don't use, man. Right? Most importantly, don't use. It don't matter what you got going on. Do not use. I'm going to do a survey real quick. Raise your hand if you ever regretted staying clean. Raise your hand if you ever regretted using. Look how simple that was, right? It's really that simple. But I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that without the drugs, my life would get better, right? But Ben quoted a line earlier. It says that when the drugs go and the addict works the program, wonderful things happen, right? What's the rest of the line, Ben?
Lost dreams awaken, new possibilities.
Lost dreams awaken, new possibilities arise. I didn't understand that, man. I had no comprehension of any of that. I thought that I was going to go without lost dreams awakening. I thought I was going to go without new possibilities arising, man. I'm going to break something out of the literature because I'm very literature based, so I love the literature. The only thing that doesn't like the literature is our disease. Right? So listen, I know when I went to the crack house, I had my stem all the time. So if I come up and share, I'm going to bring a book. All the time, right? It's important. So in the 11th step, we see that regardless of the presence or absence of material success in our lives, we can be content. We can be happy and fulfilled with or without money, with or without a partner, with or without the approval of others. Man. My whole life I was fed misinformation. My whole life that misinformation conditioned my thinking. Conditioned my thinking and developed this new way to live, man. Right? I didn't understand that, right? I thought what really made a man or a woman or a successful person was how much money you had in the bank account. Right? I thought it was man was determined about how many shorties he got in his phone. Right? I thought a man was determined about what kind of watch he got on. Right? I thought a man was determined about what kind of car or truck he's driving. I thought a man was determined about how many other men are scared of him. Right? I didn't understand that I could be content with or without any of that stuff, man. Yes. Now don't get it twisted. Like my girl said, I like my stuff, man. From where I came from, this is a few years ago, bro. Listen, I got at a treatment center. We don't endorse it, but it's my story. Like, I got a treatment center with a black garbage bag going to a halfway house, bro. I am now a successful business owner of multiple businesses. I have multiple real estate properties. I have multiple vehicles. I employ dozens of addicts and dozens of other people. Right? Like, that's crazy. And I love that stuff, man. My boy, Ben rags on me all the time while I post on social media all the time, man. Because, listen, I recover out loud, bro. So others won't die in silence, man. Because, like, I've been reached out plenty of times, man. People have reached out to me from my past asking and wanting help, man. And that's a beautiful thing. But now here's the trick now. Does the Rolex define my spirit? Come on, right? Does it? Here's the trick, man. Does the high country truck I drive at night, can I bring that to my bed when I sleep?
No.
Nah, man. Nah, listen, I got to be good with or without any of that stuff, man. Right? I got to be good on the inside so it portrays an image on the outside. Right? And none of that happens without doing the inside work. Right? None of that happens without going from within, man. Like, I don't know, who eats microwave popcorn in here? I love that stuff, right? Slamming that stuff, right? Yo, you wouldn't believe how a microwave popcorn pops, man. Right? So in each little kernel, there's a microscopic bead of water. And when you put the bag of popcorn in the microwave, right, it creates heat. And the heat actually heats up that little bead of water. And that water turns into steam, and the steam creates pressure, and then pop, you got a whole new object, a whole new piece of nice buttery popcorn. Right? That didn't happen by heating up the outside. That happened by heating up the inside, man. That even about working on my spirit, man. Because if I want an actual change that is going to be permanent, not temporary, I have to go within. If we don't go within, we will certainly go without in Narcotics Anonymous, man. If I got a lot of Narcotics Anonymous inside of me, I should have a lot of Narcotics Anonymous beaming outside of me, man. It's really just that simple. And if I'm living to the best of my ability by spiritual principles, 95% of my decisions are already made for me. It's whether or not I want to be obedient and follow direction, man. Which I very much struggle with still. Let me get one more drink of water. We've begun to see that God's will for us is the ability to live with dignity, to love ourselves and others, to laugh and to find great joy and beauty in our surroundings. Our most heartfelt longings and dreams for our lives are coming true. These priceless gifts are no longer beyond our reach. They are, in fact, the very essence of God's will for us. Dignity is a strong word in my book, man. I didn't have no dignity out there using. I just told you what I would do. Right? I would step over my mother's grave if it was necessary to get the next one. Right? I literally would, man. And my disease would be shooting me along the whole time, man. Right? Today I live in dignity. Today I have some integrity in my life, man. Today, because of the position that I've been in, right, I'm actually maybe being able to get a chance to get back in my daughter's life. Right? I've been clean 3 years and 4 months. My daughter's about to be 8, I recognize. Right? So, second round of applause, this one. 3 years, so, shoot, I lost my train of thought. So my daughter is about to be 8, and I have not talked to her or seen her since I've been clean.
Wow.
Right? And my self-entitlement, check this out, huh? My self-entitlement wants to put me in a position to say I deserve that. I earned to see her. Right? I can't go without my daughter. Right? But like, that's not up to me. Right? That's up to him.
That's right.
That's up to him. That's up to her mother. Right? That's not up to me, man. I have to be content with or without the relationship that I might have with her. It's not up to me. But I know for a fact if I remain in position, well, actually, I know for a fact if I do not remain in position, then the opportunity will never arise. Right? That new possibility will never arise. But as a matter of fact, I bring that up because within the last month, I've been having a correspondence regularly with her mother.
Wow.
Like regularly. And we are literally setting up the day that we can integrate the phone call. Right? Because I have been diligent. Right? Because I have been vigilant. Right? Because I have remained in a position of humility. And I've been patient, man. Right? And I love that, man. I love that, like, Narcotics Anonymous only has one promise, man, but we have a lot of gifts in here. And they ain't materialistic, right? They ain't, like, that's some great stuff, man. But I got some solid men, women in my life that I can lean on, right? I got men in my life that will push all in when the disease says. But, like, I couldn't do that alone. I couldn't do any of that without Narcotics Anonymous. And I'm so grateful for that. So I'm gonna say this and I'll shut up. So there was a 90-year-old woman in a village in Africa, right? She grew up her whole life living in a mud hut with no running water and no electric. Right? 90-year-old woman lived 90 years in Africa with no running water, no electric, in a mud hut. So a reporter at the New York Times found out about this and wanted to fly there to interview her. So that's what he did. He flew there and he interviewed her and he asked her one simple question. He said, if I was to give you $1 million right now, what would you do with it? He asked this lady, a 90-year-old woman lived in a mud hut with no running water, no electric. If I give you $1 million, what would you do with it? She simply replied, I would give it to someone who needs it. Right? I would give it to someone who needs it. She is content with or without.
That's right.
Woo! And listen, if I don't go within, I will go without. So I'm a recovering addict. Thanks for allowing me to share.